The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of alien beings sat in their seats waiting. The room was so big that it could hold entire cities. Crystal walls stretched up so high that the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Each alien species had their own section, marked by glowing symbols that floated in the air. Ambassador Zethkar stood up from his throne. He was tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His people ruled over many worlds. When he moved, his joints made clicking sounds like breaking glass. All eyes turned to him as he began to speak. "Today we discuss a new species," Zethkar said. His voice was translated into hundreds of languages at once. "They call themselves humans. They come from a small blue world in the outer regions of our galaxy." A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth spinning slowly in space. The planet looked tiny compared to the massive alien ships that surrounded it. Many council members had never seen such a simple world before. "We have been watching these humans for 1 full year," Zethkar continued. "They are young but growing fast. They have spread to 7 star systems already. Their technology is basic, but they use it in strange ways." High Arbiter Velnasha moved next to Zethkar. She looked like a giant snake with arms. Her people were known for being very smart and very cruel. When she spoke, her tongue flicked out to taste the air. "The humans are different from other species we have found," Velnasha said. "When we first contacted them, they did not send gold or jewels like others do. Instead, they sent us moving pictures and strange sounds. Our scientists still cannot understand what they meant. Some council members made sounds that might have been laughter. Others looked confused. First contact with new species usually followed the same pattern. The aliens would be scared, then respectful, then grateful to be part of the Great Council. But humans had been none of these things. Their first message to us was a moving picture of a man with yellow hair dancing badly," said Councillor Vrix. "His people looked like walking trees." The second message was just the word "hello" repeated many times in different voices. The third message was a song about never giving up or letting down. "They are clearly not very intelligent," said another council member. "This will make our job easier." Zethkar raised all 4 of his arms for silence. "Intelligence is not the issue. The issue is control. The humans have been growing too fast. They build ships that should not work but do. They explore space in ways that should kill them but do not. They must be stopped before they become a problem." The hologram changed to show human ships. They looked rough and ugly compared to the smooth council vessels, but there were many of them, and they moved in patterns that the council's computers could not predict. "The council has made a decision," Velnasha announced. "The humans will become our tributaries. They will give us 40% of everything they make. They will give us 30% of their military ships. They will give us 50% of their scientific discoveries. This is the same deal we offer to all new species." The terms appeared in the air as glowing text. Every alien in the room had seen these same words before. Some had given these terms to other species themselves. It was always the same. The new species would complain, then negotiate, then finally agree. They had no choice. "If they refuse," Zethkar said, "we will use standard punishment methods. Their worlds will be bombed from space until they surrender. This has never failed before." What the council did not know was that 3 human ships were hiding nearby. They had been watching and listening for months. The ships were small and black, almost invisible against the stars. On one of these ships, Captain Sarah Chen sat in her command chair. Captain Chen was not like most human officers. She had grown up on a colony world where life was hard. She had learned to fight when she was still a child. Now she led missions that most people thought were impossible. "Did you get all that, Rodriguez?" she whispered into her communicator. "Every word," came the reply from Earth. Admiral Rodriguez was the head of Earth's space fleet. He was an old man who had fought in many wars. "They want to make us their slaves. What are your orders, sir?" There was a long pause. Chen could hear other voices in the background. The leaders of Earth were talking, deciding what to do. Finally, Rodriguez spoke again. "Come home, Captain. We need to talk to everyone about this. All the colonies, all the ships, all the people. This is bigger than just Earth now." Chen looked at her crew. They were young, like her. They had volunteered for this mission because they believed in something. They believed that humans should be free to choose their own path among the stars. "You heard him," Chen said to her pilot. "Take us home and send a message to all human settlements. Tell them the council has made their move." As the human ships prepared to leave, the council continued their meeting. They talked about how to divide up the human territories. They discussed which council members would get which human colonies. They planned where to build their new bases on human worlds. None of them noticed the 3 small ships slipping away into hyperspace. None of them thought that humans might refuse their generous offer. In 3,000 years of conquering other species, the council had never met anyone who said no. But humans were different from the other species the council had conquered. The other species had been alone on their worlds, divided by wars and politics. When the council came, these species could not unite fast enough to fight back. Humans had left Earth long ago. They lived on many worlds now, connected by messages that traveled faster than light. When one human world was threatened, all human worlds knew about it immediately. When one human made a decision, millions of others could agree or disagree in seconds. The council thought they were dealing with one planet and one species. They did not understand that they were facing something new. They were facing a civilization that stretched across the stars, held together not by force or fear but by choice. As Captain Chen's ship jumped to hyperspace, she thought about what was coming. The council had conquered 800 species over 3,000 years. They had never lost a war. Their fleets could destroy entire worlds, but they had never fought humans before. "Captain," her communications officer said, "I'm getting messages from all over human space. Every colony, every station, every ship. They all want to know what we're going to do." Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was not afraid either. "Tell them we're going home to have a conversation. Tell them it's time for all of humanity to make a choice together." The 3 ships disappeared into the darkness between stars, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the council continued their meeting, confident that in 10 days they would have new slaves to serve them. They had no idea what was coming. The emergency meeting took place deep underground on Earth. The room was carved out of solid rock beneath the Swiss mountains. Representatives from every human colony sat around a huge circular table. The air was thick with tension as people argued in dozens of languages. Secretary General Maria Santos stood at the center of the room. She was a small woman, but when she spoke, everyone listened. She had spent her whole life working to keep humanity united as they spread across the stars. "The Galactic Council wants 40% of everything we make," Santos said. Her voice echoed off the stone walls. "They want our factories, our mines, our shipyards. They want us to give them almost half of everything we own." Admiral Rodriguez walked around the table as he talked. He was an old soldier with gray hair and scars on his hands. He had fought in the colony wars when humans first left Earth. Now he commanded all of humanity's military forces. "I've seen their fleet records," Rodriguez said. "They have ships the size of cities. They have weapons that can crack planets in half. On paper, we can't win a fight against them." Director Zhang of the Colonial Defense Force shook her head. "My people are ready to fight, but we need to be realistic. They've conquered 800 other species. What makes us think we can do better?" Dr. Elena Vasquez spoke up from her seat near the wall. She studied alien cultures and had spent years trying to understand how the council worked. Every species they conquered had one thing in common. They were divided when the council came. Different countries, different governments, different armies, all trying to make separate deals. "We're not like that," said President Chen of the Pacific Federation. "When the first colonies were built, we agreed that all humans would stay connected. We shared technology, resources, information. We worked together." Prime Minister O'Brien from the European Alliance nodded. "The Council doesn't understand how we organize ourselves. They think we're just another planet-bound species with local governments. They don't know that we're already spread across 7 star systems." General Harrison spread his hands on the table. He commanded the strategic forces that protected human space. "Even if we're united, we're still outgunned. They have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, weapons we can barely understand." "But they've never fought anyone like us," said Chancellor Okafor from the African Union. "Every species they conquered before was afraid. They surrendered quickly to save their lives. What if someone refused to surrender?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew what happened to species that refused the Council's terms. Their worlds were bombed until nothing was left alive. The Council had destroyed entire civilizations to make examples for others. "There's something else," Dr. Vasquez said quietly. "I've been studying the Council's history. In 3,000 years, they've never fought a war that lasted more than a few months. They win by being so powerful that resistance seems hopeless." "What are you saying?" Santos asked. I'm saying they might not be as strong as they seem. They win through fear, not through actual fighting. Most species surrender before the real war begins. Rodriguez stopped walking and looked at the faces around the table. Are we seriously talking about fighting the most powerful force in the galaxy? We're talking about freedom, President Chen said. My grandfather told me stories about Earth's history, about small groups of people who fought against much larger armies because they believed in something important. This isn't just about Earth anymore, said Governor Martinez from the Mars colony. We have children growing up on 43 different worlds. If we surrender to the Council, what kind of future are we giving them? The debate went on for hours. Economists talked about the impossible cost of war. Military officers discussed battle strategies that had almost no chance of success. Diplomats suggested trying to negotiate better terms, but slowly something strange began to happen. The angry arguments got quieter. People started listening to each other instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. Ideas that seemed crazy at first began to make sense. They want 50% of our scientific research, said Dr. Kim from the Science Council. That means they're afraid of what we might discover. They want to control our minds, not just our resources. And they want 30% of our military ships, added Admiral Torres from the Colonial Fleet. But they don't know how many ships we actually have. Our deep space missions have been classified. Santos realized what was happening. The room was full of people from different worlds, different cultures, different governments. But they were all reaching the same conclusion without anyone forcing them to agree. They think we're weak because we're young, said Representative Okafor. They think we'll be grateful to serve them like all the others. They don't understand what it means to be human. We don't kneel, said General Harrison simply. It's not in our nature. We might lose, but we don't surrender without a fight. Rodriguez felt something he hadn't felt since the colony wars. It was the moment when scattered groups became a unified force. When separate armies became one military, when different peoples became one civilization. If we do this, he said slowly, we do it all the way. No half measures, no backup plans. We tell the Council no, and then we prepare for them to try to destroy us. All in favor? Santos asked. Every hand in the room went up. Representatives from 43 colonies, from orbital stations, from deep spaceships that were months away from home. All of them voting for the same thing. Unanimous, Santos said. Now we need to decide exactly what to tell them. That's easy, said President Chen. We tell them what every free human would tell a bully. We tell them no, just no? Dr. Vasquez asked. Nothing else? Rodriguez smiled for the first time in days. Sometimes the simple answers are the best ones. They want to know if we'll be their slaves. The answer is no. Short and clear, agreed Santos. No room for misunderstanding, no chance for them to claim we agreed to negotiate. As the meeting ended, representatives began making calls to their home worlds. The message spread across human space faster than light, jumping from colony to colony through quantum communication networks. On Mars, factory workers stopped their machines to listen to the news. On Titan, miners put down their tools and gathered around communication screens. On distant frontier worlds, farmers and scientists and engineers all heard the same message. Humanity had been asked to surrender their freedom. Humanity had answered with a single word. The Council expected an answer in 10 days. They would get one much sooner than that. And it would not be the answer they expected. In hidden shipyards throughout human space, workers began removing fake panels from ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers. Underneath the false metal plating, weapon systems that should not have existed began to power up. Operation Prometheus was about to begin. The Galactic Council met again 3 days after their deadline had passed. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever been late with their surrender. The Great Hall buzzed with excited conversation as Council members discussed how to divide up the new human territories. Ambassador Zethkar settled into his crystal throne with satisfaction. His forearms moved in flowing gestures as he spoke to other ambassadors. The tribute ships should arrive from human space within the hour, he said. Their industrial output will be most useful for our expansion into the southern spiral arm. High Arbiter Velnasha coiled her snake-like body around her floating platform. Have the humans sent any messages explaining their delay? She asked. Communications Overseer Crix checked his instruments. He was a small gray creature with large eyes and thin fingers. His people were experts at managing information across the galaxy. Yes, Your Eminence. A transmission was received from the human homeworld 4 hours ago. Excellent, Zethkar said. Display their formal surrender so we can proceed with territorial assignments. Crix's large eyes blinked nervously. The message is not a surrender document, Your Excellence. It appears to be much shorter than expected. How much shorter? Velnasha asked. Her tongue flicked out to taste the air, sensing something wrong. The entire message consists of one human word. Your Eminence. Our translation computers have analyzed it thoroughly, but the meaning seems to be exactly what it appears to be. Counselor Thrak of the militant caste began to laugh. He was a huge creature made of stone and metal built for war. His laughter sounded like rocks grinding together. One word? These humans are even more primitive than we thought. Display their pathetic attempt at communication. A hologram appeared in the center of the council chamber. It showed the official seal of Earth's government, a blue circle with 7 stars around it representing the human colonies. Below the seal, in simple black letters, was humanity's response to the council's demands. No. The laughter in the great hall died away. Council members stared at the message, trying to understand what they were seeing. For several long moments, nobody spoke. No, Thrak repeated, his stone face showing confusion. They sent us the word no. That cannot be correct, said Counselor Yeath of the scientific caste. Her crystal body sparkled as she moved. New species do not refuse council authority. Perhaps this is a translation error. Crix checked his instruments again. The translation is accurate, Your Eminence. The human word no means exactly what it appears to mean. It is a rejection of council terms. Zethkar's forearms clenched into fists. This is impossible. No species has ever refused our terms. They must be trying to negotiate for better conditions. There is more, Your Excellencies, Crix said quietly. The message did not come from just one location. Our sensors detected simultaneous transmission from 43 different points throughout human space. The council members looked at each other with growing unease. Most species could barely coordinate between different cities on their homeworld. The idea of perfect timing across multiple star systems was almost unthinkable. All of their colonies sent the same message at exactly the same time? Velnasha asked. Yes, Your Eminence. Every human settlement, every orbital station, every ship in their fleet. The synchronization was perfect to within microseconds. Counselor Yith's crystal form began to glow brighter. That level of coordination requires technology we did not detect in our surveys. How did they achieve such precise timing across interstellar distances? Unknown, Crix replied. But there is more. Immediately after sending their message, energy signatures throughout human space began to spike. Our long-range sensors detect massive movement of ships and resources. Zethkar stood up from his throne, all 4 arms spread wide. Movement? What kind of movement? They appear to be mobilizing their entire civilization, Your Excellence. Every human colony is showing signs of military preparation. Thrak's stone features twisted into what might have been a smile. Let them prepare. It will make the conquest more entertaining. How many ships do they have? That is difficult to determine, Your Excellence. Our previous counts showed approximately 200 vessels across their 7 systems. Current sensors indicate the number may be significantly higher. Higher how? Velnasha demanded. Crix's gray skin turned pale. Current estimates suggest they have over 3,000 active vessels, Your Eminence. Most of them were apparently hidden or disguised during our previous reconnaissance missions. The Great Hall erupted in surprised voices. 3,000 ships was a significant military force even by Council standards. It was far more than any newly discovered species should have possessed. This changes nothing, Zethkar declared, raising his voice above the noise. 3,000 ships cannot stand against the full might of the Council. Deploy Subjugation Fleet 7. Use standard orbital bombardment protocols. But Counselor Yeath was studying the data more carefully. Her scientific mind saw patterns that the military leaders missed. Your Excellence, if I may suggest caution. The humans have demonstrated capabilities we did not anticipate. Perhaps we should gather more intelligence before— Absolutely not, Thrak interrupted. The humans have issued a challenge to Council authority. If we appear weak, other species might get similar ideas. We must crush this rebellion immediately and completely. I agree, Velnasha said. Send the subjugation fleet. Make an example of the humans that will discourage future disobedience. The orders were given quickly. Subjugation Fleet 7 was the Council's finest military force, equipped with planet-killing weapons and commanded by veterans of hundreds of successful conquests. They would reach human space in 3 days. What the Council did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for over a year. Captain Chen's reconnaissance missions had not just gathered information about the Council. They had also made contact with species that most people believed were extinct. On hidden bases throughout human space, refugees from conquered worlds worked alongside human engineers. The Council thought they had destroyed these species completely, but scattered survivors had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars for centuries. The Threnodi had been master shipbuilders before the Council destroyed their homeworld. The Kethmar had been experts in energy weapons. The Void Runners had known how to hide entire fleets in the emptiness of space. All of them had been waiting for someone to give them hope. When the humans had found these survivors, they had not demanded tribute or service. Instead, they had offered something that the refugees thought they would never see again: a chance to fight back. Dr. Vasquez stood on the bridge of the newly revealed UES Unity, watching as ships that should not exist powered up their weapons. Each vessel was a hybrid of human engineering and alien technology, built in secret over the past year. Message from Admiral Rodriguez, her communications officer, reported. All human fleets are ready. All Allied forces are in position. We're waiting for your signal. Vasquez looked out at the stars where the Council's subjugation fleet would soon appear. She thought about the single word that had started all of this. Such a simple word, but it carried the weight of an entire civilization's determination. Send a message to all human settlements, she said. Tell them the Council has made their choice. Tell them it's time to show the galaxy what happens when free people say no and mean it. The message spread across human space at the speed of light. On 43 worlds, millions of people received the same transmission. They had voted to resist, and now they would learn if their courage was stronger than the Council's fear. Subjugation Fleet 7 dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, like a storm of metal and death. 20 massive dreadnoughts, each one the size of a city, arranged themselves in perfect formation around Earth's sun. Smaller ships filled the spaces between them until the darkness was crowded with weapon ports and sensor arrays. Fleet Commander Vorth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable Victory. He was a veteran warrior who had personally overseen 30 successful conquests. His species looked like walking armor, with thick plates of bone covering their entire bodies. He had never lost a battle in 4 centuries of service. Initial sensor sweep, Vorth commanded. His voice was like grinding metal. I want full tactical analysis of human defenses. Navigation Officer Kess worked at her control station. She was smaller than Vorth, with quick fingers and sharp eyes. Sir, detecting multiple human vessels throughout the system. Numbers are unusual. Define unusual. Our intelligence reports indicated approximately 50 ships in the Sol system. Current sensors show over 800 active contacts. Vorth's bone plates clicked together in what might have been annoyance. Sensor ghosts. These primitive humans are using crude electronic warfare. Run deep spectrum analysis. The analysis took 20 minutes. During that time, more human ships continued to appear. They emerged from asteroid belts where nothing should have been able to hide. They rose from the gas giant atmospheres where the pressure should have crushed any normal vessel. They materialized from what had seemed to be empty space. Analysis complete, sir, Kess reported. Her voice was tight with confusion. These are not sensor ghosts. All contacts are genuine vessels with active power signatures. How many? Vorth demanded. Current count is over 2,000 ships, sir, and the numbers are still increasing. Vorth stared at the tactical display. In 4 centuries of warfare, he had never seen anything like this. The human ships were everywhere, moving in patterns that made no sense according to standard military doctrine. More disturbing, the energy signatures were all wrong. Weapons analysis, he ordered. Tactical Officer Bren was the youngest member of the bridge crew, but he was an expert on weapon systems. Sir, these energy readings don't match our intelligence reports. The human vessels are equipped with technology that appears to be Council standard. Impossible. Run the analysis again. Already confirmed, sir. These ships are using weapons and shield systems from at least 17 different Council member species. Vorth felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. How did they acquire Council military technology? Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated. A human voice spoke in perfect Council standard, but with an accent that sent chills through the bridge crew. Fleet Commander Vorth, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the United Human Federation. Before we begin, I thought you might like to understand exactly what you're facing. The main display shifted to show not just human ships, but the full scope of what they had accomplished. Refugee populations that should have been extinct. Scientists and engineers from worlds the Council had thought completely destroyed. Military officers from civilizations that had been defeated centuries ago. You see, Commander, Dr. Vasquez continued, humans have a particular trait. When we find people who need help, we offer assistance. When we find refugees, we give them homes. When we find species with legitimate grievances against their oppressors, we discover we have much in common. A new voice joined the transmission. Speaking in Council standard but with the distinctive accent of the Threnody people, Vorth's bone plates began to rattle as he recognized the language. Commander Vorth, this is General Kethmar of the Threnody Defense Force. You may remember us. Your ships glassed our home world 800 years ago. My people have been waiting a very long time for this conversation. Another voice spoke from the human fleet. Captain Yilneth of the Void Runners. The Council destroyed our civilization 3 centuries past. We have not forgotten. More voices joined the transmission. The Sithrak Confederacy, supposedly wiped out in the second expansion. The Crystal Singers, whose world had been strip-mined until nothing remained. The Star Wanderers, whose entire species had been sold into slavery. Dozens of civilizations that the Council's records listed as extinct were speaking from human ships, very much alive and very eager to settle old scores. This is impossible, Vorth whispered. We destroyed all of these species. Their worlds are dead, their fleets scattered. Dr. Vasquez's voice carried a tone that Vorth was not familiar with. It was something humans called compassion, but it had an edge of steel underneath. You destroyed their worlds, Commander. You scattered their fleets, but you never found all of their people. Survivors have been hiding in the dark spaces between stars for centuries, waiting for someone to give them hope. Over the past year, she continued, human exploration vessels have been searching for these refugees, not to conquer them or control them, but to offer them something you never understood. We offered them choice. We offered them partnership. We offered them a chance to build something better than what came before. The tactical display updated to show the true composition of the human fleet. Ships built with Threnody engineering techniques that had been thought lost forever. Void Runner stealth technology that could hide entire battle groups. Sithrak shield generators that could withstand planet-cracking weapons. Every species you conquered had knowledge, Dr. Vasquez explained. Every civilization you destroyed had skills that took millennia to develop. The refugees brought that knowledge with them when they joined us. General Kethmar's voice carried 8 centuries of patient anger. We have been planning this moment since the day your ships left our world burning. Every tactical weakness in Council doctrine, every flaw in your ship designs, every mistake in your military thinking. We have studied it all. Captain Yilneth added her own thoughts. My people specialized in guerrilla warfare before the Council found us. We learned to fight enemies much larger and more powerful than ourselves. We taught these techniques to our human allies. Vorth looked around his bridge at officers who had never known defeat. They were staring at their instruments with expressions he had never seen before. It was something that Council warriors rarely experienced: fear. You wanted to know what humanity's no meant, Dr. Vasquez said. It meant that we spent the last year giving 800 oppressed species something they thought they would never have again. We gave them the ability to say no to the Council's demands. The communication channel filled with voices speaking in dozens of different languages. The translation systems on Vorth's ship converted them all into the same Council standard phrase, no. The word echoed through the bridge like a battle cry. For the first time in his military career, Commander Vorth understood that he might not win this battle. More than that, he understood that his fleet might not even survive it. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, incoming transmission from the Council. They want a status report. Vorth stared at the tactical display showing thousands of enemy ships where there should have been dozens. He thought about his orders to quickly crush human resistance and move on to the next conquest. Tell the Council, he said slowly, that the situation has become complicated. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol, and the Galactic Council was in chaos. The great hall that had once been filled with confident voices now echoed with worried whispers. Council members who had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years were learning what it felt like to be afraid. High Arbiter Velnasha coiled nervously around her platform as she addressed the emergency session. Her serpentine body trembled with each movement. "The situation continues to deteriorate," she announced. "The Human Alliance has liberated 17 star systems. 4 of our battle groups have been completely destroyed." Ambassador Zethkar slumped in his crystal throne. His forearms hung limply at his sides. The confident warrior who had demanded human tribute was gone, replaced by someone who looked old and defeated. "How did we miscalculate so completely?" he asked. "It gets worse," Velnasha continued. 37 of our member species have requested to leave the Council. They want to join what the humans call the Terran Alliance. Gasps echoed through the hall. In 3 millennia of expansion, Council member species had never been allowed to leave. The idea that they would even ask was unthinkable just a year ago. Councillor Thrak of the militant caste no longer laughed. His stone features were cracked with stress fractures. "We underestimated them completely. We thought they were like every other species we had conquered." "We were wrong. How were we wrong?" demanded Councillor Yith. Her crystal body flickered with nervous energy. "Our analysis was thorough. Our intelligence was accurate." "Our intelligence was about their technology and their numbers," Thrak replied. "We never bothered to understand how they think. We analyzed them as individuals when we should have been studying them as a group." Dr. Vasquez had tried to explain this to them during one of their brief diplomatic exchanges. Humans did not act like other species when they were threatened. Most civilizations became more divided under pressure, breaking into factions that could be conquered separately. Humans did the exact opposite. "When humans face a threat to their entire species," Thrak continued, "they do not fragment. They consolidate. They do not calculate odds of success. They simply act on their principles." "What principles?" Zethkar asked. "Freedom," said a new voice from the entrance to the Great Hall. "The principle that thinking beings should be allowed to choose their own destiny." Every head in the council chamber turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez walking calmly down the central aisle. She wore simple human clothing and carried no weapons. Behind her walked representatives from dozens of species that the council had thought were extinct. "How did you get past our security?" Velnasha demanded. Dr. Vasquez smiled. "Your security systems are designed to stop invasions, not diplomatic visits. We requested a meeting through proper channels 3 weeks ago. Your staff finally approved it this morning." General Kethmar of the Threnodi stepped forward. "We are here to discuss terms," he said in his ancient, proud voice. "Terms?" Zethkar's forearms began to tremble. "You cannot dictate terms to the Galactic Council. We are the legitimate government of this galaxy. Are you?" asked Captain Yilnith of the Void Runners. "Legitimate governments derive their authority from the consent of the governed. How many of your member species joined the Council by choice?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every council member knew the answer. Every species in the galaxy had been conquered, threatened, or coerced into joining. None had ever been asked. "The Council has maintained peace and order for 3,000 years, Velnasha protested. "You have maintained control," Dr. Vasquez corrected gently. "That is not the same thing as peace. Real peace cannot exist when it is built on the suppression of freedom." She gestured to the representatives behind her. "These are the survivors of your peace. These are the people who paid the price for your order. They have some things they would like to say." For the next 2 hours, the council listened to testimony from species they had forgotten. Stories of worlds destroyed not because they were dangerous, but because they refused to surrender their independence. Tales of entire civilizations sold into slavery because their resources were valuable. Accounts of cultural destruction carried out simply to make conquest easier. "We did what was necessary to maintain stability," Zethkar said weakly when the testimonies ended. "You did what was convenient to maintain power," General Kethmar replied. "There is a difference," Dr. Vasquez stepped forward again. "But we are not here to relitigate the past. We are here to discuss the future. The Terran Alliance is prepared to offer the Council a choice." "What kind of choice?" Thrak asked suspiciously. "The same choice you have been giving other species for 3,000 years. You can surrender and accept our terms, or you can continue to fight and accept the consequences." The council members looked at each other in shock. No one had ever spoken to them this way. No one had ever been in a position to make such demands. "What are your terms?" Felnasha asked quietly. "Complete dissolution of the Council's tributary system. All conquered species will be given the option to remain as voluntary members of a new federation or to become independent worlds. All military forces will be reduced to defensive levels only. And if we refuse?" Zethkar asked. Dr. Vasquez's expression remained calm, but her voice carried the weight of the entire human alliance behind it. "Then the revolution continues. More species join us every day. Your member worlds are already choosing freedom over security. You cannot govern a galaxy through voluntary cooperation." Counselor Yith protested. "There must be central authority. There must be control." "Why?" asked Captain Yilnith. "The Terran Alliance has 37 different species working together right now. They cooperate because they choose to, not because they are forced to." "It will never work," Thrak insisted. "Without the Council's authority, there will be wars, chaos, fragmentation." "Perhaps," Dr. Vasquez admitted. "Freedom is messy. It is complicated and sometimes dangerous, but it is also the only foundation upon which real peace can be built." She looked around the great hall at the alien beings who had ruled the galaxy for so long. "You wanted to know what humanity's no meant. It meant that some principles are more important than survival. It meant that freedom is worth fighting for even against impossible odds. We gave you the same choice you have given to 800 other species over 3 millennia. We said no to your demands and we were prepared to face the consequences. Now you must make the same choice." The council debated for hours after the human delegation left. Some members wanted to continue fighting. Others argued for negotiation. A few even suggested accepting the human terms completely. In the end, they did something that no council in 3,000 years had ever done. They scheduled a vote not just of council members, but of every species in their territory. For the first time in galactic history, the governed would be asked for their consent. The results were not even close. Over 90% of council species voted to join the new federation or become independent worlds. The age of the Galactic Council was over. Dr. Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the UES Unity, watching as the first session of the new Galactic Federation convened. It would not be easy. Freedom never was. There would be arguments, disagreements, and probably conflicts. But for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy's future would be decided by choice rather than force. And that, she thought, was worth everything humanity had risked. Sometimes the most powerful word in any language was the simplest one. Sometimes no was enough to change the course of history. The revolution had begun with a single word from a young species that refused to accept that the way things were was the way things had to be. It had succeeded because that word carried the weight of an entire civilization's determination to remain free. In the end, humanity had taught the galaxy something that had been forgotten for millennia. They had reminded everyone that freedom was not something to be granted by authority. It was something to be claimed by those brave enough to say no to tyranny. The word echoed across 1,000 worlds as species after species chose independence over security, freedom over control. And in that echo, the future of the galaxy was reborn.